Hello, welcome to Ted's Fish Room. In this episode, we're going to go ahead and plant this 75-gallon aquarium that we did the hardscape in the last episode. I've got all my tools ready, so let me show them to you. The first tool I'm going to show you is this great little garden sprayer. Actually, it's a pretty big garden sprayer. It holds 3 gallons. That I use to add water into these aquascapes so I don't disturb the substrate and I keep some aspects of it damp. I'm actually going ahead right now and using it to put some water into the bottom of this hardscape or into this tank so I can start to plant it. And the water goes in gently enough that it doesn't disturb any substrate. I don't end up with cloudy water or anything like that. And get the rocks nice and wet. I'll come and do some over here on the other side of the hardscape in a minute. I went ahead and got this started because I'm going to need to have some water up into the substrate before I can plant it. So I'm going to let that keep going while I show you the rest of the tools and plants that I have out. Here's my work table. Like you see, I've got my manzanita wood out. I'm going to use that outside the tank because I'm going to put some plants on it. I'm going to put the plants on it with a gel glue. This is Loctite super glue gel. It needs water activated, so it doesn't mind if it gets wet, and it will be used to stick some moss, this is flame moss, onto these stems and also onto some of the lava rock that's in the tank. I also have a couple tools here. This is a nice spatula. These are some fine scissors. Here's a small spatula I use for stuffing roots down into substrates. Here is a pair of tweezers. I like the tweezers that have an angled tip to them, and I'll show you how I use those. Then here's a bigger pair of scissors for cutting things that I may not want to hurt my sharper scissors on. The plants that I have today, I have the flame moss, which I've already shown you. And then under here, this is one of my favorite plants. This is Juncus repens. It's going to grow tall and get bushy, but not very thick, so it still lets the light come through. This is one of my favorite cryptocorenes. This is Cryptocorene blasi. And what I like about it is it's very red. It also has that long petiole and a very nice oar shape or spade shaped leaf. This crypt is a mixture of 2 types, I think. One is a light green and one is a dark green, almost red. But the form of growth is almost the same. And I really like that because when I plant them together in a bunch, they're not so contrasty and it's going to look much more natural. And then the plants I have out here in front, these are the Tropica 1-2 grow plants. I really like them. And I've got 4 types of plants I'm probably going to use in this aquascape. I'm not sure. This is a dwarf hair grass, which I've used before. They say it's dwarf, but in my tanks it tends to get about 3 inches tall. I am intending to use some of this, but it grows so fast I probably won't use very much. This is Altananthera reinecki mini. Again, it's not supposed to get very tall, but it's also one of my favorite plants, and it's very, very red. And as far as a red plant goes, it's really easy to grow. This is Hydrocotyle tripartita. This is the one that I'm not sure if I'm going to use or not because it has such a fast growth habit and it gets really, really bushy. We'll make a decision as we start planting the tank. And then this is Starogynea repens. It's about as close as we're going to get to a ground cover plant. I'm not really going to have a true ground cover in this tank because I really want to be able to see the substrate. This is going to be kind of the foreground plant that's going to be in this tank. Okay, so all of our tools are lined up, all of our plants are ready to go. I'm going to let some more water get into this tank, and you'll notice, you can see how the substrate is getting pretty wet. I'm going to move the sprayer over to this side of the aquarium and get this substrate damp, and then I'm going to go ahead and start planting it. When I start planting a new aquascape, I like to start with the foreground plants in the front and work my way to the back. And this is because those plants in the back are kind of floppy and they're going to fall over and lean on the plants in the front, and it's really hard to plant underneath them. So I start in the front and work my way back. So that means I'm going to start with Starogynea repens, one of the very foreground plants I'm going to use. If you have not tried the Tropica 1-2 grow plants, the tissue culture plants, I suggest you give them a shot. You get an awful lot of plant in a cup, and they grow really, really fast. Here's how to clean them up so you can use them in a tank. Pop them out of the cup. Open up. Now you're going to need a little bucket of water or something to rinse them off in. So I'm going to dump them out right here like this. And I'm going to remove all the gel that is underneath the plant. And what you're going to end up with are a whole lot of little plants like this. And each of these will grow into a single stem. And in one of these little cups, you get about 30 or 40 stems. So for the price, which is about $12 to $15 for a cup, they're actually a really good deal. And they're clean, and they don't have pests, and they grow really fast. I've got all my Star Guy repens separated from the little 1-2 grow cups, and now I'm going to plant them around my Aquascape. So the way I use these forceps to do this is I don't have the forceps pointing down. I have the forceps pointing across. And I'm going to grab them right at the very base. I'm going to go in here to the place I want to put them. I'm just going to put them in, and now, because I have the forceps pointed this way, I can pull them away from the base of the plant so that I'm not pulling the plant up whenever I pull the forceps out. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep planting them here. And I'm going to plant these pretty much all around the base of these rocks. I'm going to go out into the sand a little bit. Remember how I said that you're going to end up getting some, the plants are going to make that transition zone between the aquarium soil and the sand, soften it? That's what the Star Guy repens is going to do. Now when it comes to planting plants, if I get any pieces that have really big leaves on them like this, I pull those big leaves off, especially if they're down around the base of the plant, because it's not going to do any good. Now I've got quite a bit of the Star Guy to plant. So I'm going to go ahead and put it all in, and then I'll show you how it looks before I go on to the next plant. So now all the Star Guy repens is in place, and you'll notice that it is evenly distributed, a little thicker here in the middle, and then over here on this side as well. You'll notice I didn't go all the way around here to the outside, because I'm going to put something else over there. So it is ridiculous how much plant you get in one of these 1-2 grow cups. This is 1 cup of the Alternanthera reinecki mini. I counted there are 32 starts, not single stems, because a lot of the starts I have in here have multiple stems, but 32 starts in 1 single cup. Whenever I order plants, I always get 2 cups because sometimes 1 cup will go bad. Both the cups I have today look really, really good. I probably am only going to need the amount that I have in 1 cup. I'm going to put the Alternanthera reinecki right in the center of that golden ratio, right where I want your eye to be drawn. It's going to be the bright red focal point in the center of this aquascape. I am very purposely planting this Alternanthera between the lava rocks. And right now they're small, so you're not going to see them. But they're going to pop up from between the lava rocks and around the base of those pieces of wood we're going to put in here and look pretty cool. So I only needed 1 cup of the Alternanthera reinecki, and you can see from above better, I basically have lined this entire crevice with Alternanthera, and a little bit back up in here, and down this crevice here in front. So when it is all said and done, this entire section of the aquascape is going to appear red. but everything else around it will be various shades of green. So it should be a very nice draw to the eye to the center of that golden ratio aquascape layout we put together. So I put all the Alternanthera reinecki over on the big pile of rocks on the other side of the tank. On this side over here, I'm going to balance that red color with a slightly not as bright red color of the Cryptocrane blasi. This is also a bigger plant, so it's going to give a little more structural integrity to this side of the aquascape. I didn't plant all the Cryptocrane blasi over on the other side of the tank because I want some on this side to balance that leaf shape out a little bit. I also have all this other Cryptocrane, which I think is Cryptocrane wentii, and I'm going to plant most of it on this side of the aquarium, but I'm going to save a few to balance this leaf shape out on that side of the aquarium as well. Once you start having a lot of plants in the tank, it's pretty important to pretty frequently give them a good spray down with a fine mist of water. The last big plant to go in is going to be one of my favorites, Juncus repens. This plant gets a stem, but the leaf nodes are pretty far apart. So it's pretty big, it takes up some space, but doesn't block a lot of light, and it gives a lot of structure along the background. I'm going to plant it in the back corners and a couple along the back side, just to break up that harsh line and that white background a little bit. It's lighter in color, so it's not going to change the look of the darkness of the rocks any. It's just going to give a little more contrast and soften the outlines of the rocks a bit. So I decided not to use any of the hairgrass or any of the Hydrocotyle tripartita. I think both of them are going to be a little too invasive for this aquascape, and they're also very light in color. And I have all the light color I need in that Juncus repens. But I still want to soften the outline of the manzanita a little bit. And I'm going to do that by attaching some moss. Now when I'm going to do that is I'm going to use a super glue that is water activated, and it goes on as a gel. So the moss is a little bit wet. Now I can tell you that if your hands are wet and you let this glue get on your hands, it does stick to your hands. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully put my glasses on so that I can see. And I don't need this moss to be too low in the plant, but usually right about the first place where you start seeing a branch, like where the first branch is, I'm going to come in and I'm just going to put a little dab of glue. I'm going to ball up a little piece of moss and I'm just going to stick it there. Now there's enough water in that moss to cause that glue to activate, and it's going to stick right there. Now, it doesn't take a lot of moss to eventually cover one of these sticks. Luckily, it's pretty easy to trim. So I'm going to put a little more on this one. If you remember from the first video, I was having a little bit of problems getting the layout of the manzanita wood looking exactly the way I wanted it. So I'm changing things up a little bit. One thing to remember when you're putting the wood in after the plants is that there are plants in here. So make sure that you're not hurting any of the plants or in another way damaging roots or anything when you're putting these things in. It can be a little tough. If you're using manzanita or anything else that floats, it's important that the wood have been soaked ahead of time so that it will stay down. If it doesn't, then you're going to have to find a way to weight it down until it sinks. Usually that all it takes is putting a rock on top of where it connects into the hardscape. It's going to be ugly for a few weeks, but eventually you'll be able to pull it out. I'm trying to be really careful not to destroy some of this Alternanthera, so I might have to move some of it and replant it. And there we have it. I'm looking at this willow moss now and I'm thinking, you know, I may want to pull some of that out. It's going to get pretty thick right there in the middle. But I can do that once it grows in a little bit. The way I fill a tank up with water without messing up the substrate is to use a big plastic bag and spread it out in the front of the tank like this. And you'll see I have my little adapter here. You'll see how this works in just a sec. And now I'll go turn the water on really slow. It'll take a while to fill it up, but nothing will get disturbed. So the tank is almost full. The water's high enough that I can pull this piece of plastic out now. Now the tank looks pretty good. We'll let it fill up the rest of the way. We'll fluff the plants a little bit so they're getting plenty of light and they're not laying on top of each other. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we're going to do in the next video. One thing I like to do as the tank is filling is to go around and pull the plants up straight, get the leaves up where they're supposed to be. So the new Aquascape is planted. The plants went in pretty well. Everything came together pretty good. On the next episode of this video series, I'll cover all the filtration, the carbon dioxide, the CO2, and all that kind of stuff. I'd like to give a shout out to Cataclysm. The Madison Area Aquatic Hobbyist Aquarium Club has a convention every 2 years. It's happening in September, the 4th weekend of September, September 22nd and 24th in Madison, Wisconsin. If you are all interested in catfish, or if you're just interested in aquarium keeping in general, this is a great convention to come to. Check it out at www.catfish-cataclysm.com. I'll leave a link in the comments. So, hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching Ted's Fish Room. Absolutely, positively, one of the most frustrating and infuriating things that you can wake up to after doing a major aquascaping like this is a leak. A leak in a bad place, right on the front bottom corner of this tank. So after spending 48 hours, actually 72 hours, rescaping this aquarium, an aquarium that has been up and running pretty much solidly for about 8 years, different aquascapes back and forth. It's been emptied and cleaned out a few times, but it's never been dried, to all of a sudden end up with a leak at a point in the tank where you would think that the silicone would be its thickness. Really makes me angry. It's very, very discouraging. So now I have to tear this thing completely down, tear it all out, and find something to do with all of these plants that I just planted yesterday, so they're fragile, and figure out how I'm going to do it again.